And now the speech which strikes fear into the heart of any groom. I'm sure Rob will be no exception. The best man.
First, I'd like to apologise for my lateness earlier. I've just had a breakdown in communication between me and Simon, but never mind. Right, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously Simon and Charlotte. Firstly, let me introduce myself. As you probably know, my name is Rob, and I'm the best man. Now, to be honest, the title of best man has always puzzled me to some extent, because obviously, if I am the best man, why is Charlotte marrying Simon? never mind. There we go. Obviously. All jokes aside, I'd like to obviously echo what everyone said today, some very kind and very true words, and obviously respond on behalf of the ushers and the bridesmaids today, you know, for your kind words. So, basically, I think you'll agree when I say today's been a very unforgettable, obviously emotional day, even the cake's in tears. And the cake's in tears.
No speed there.
That was from the highbrow show for jokes. Anyway, the couple have done a superb job organising today. It really is very nice, and even the weather obviously has held up to some extent, so that's been fantastic. Doesn't everyone look amazing though? Obviously, you guys out there looking fantastic. Bridesmaids, everyone. Charlotte, you're absolutely stunning. Unfortunately, Simon is looking a little bit like an action man that's let himself go. So, could have made an effort there, but never mind. It's your wedding day. So my job today, amongst other things, is to tell you about the enigma that is Simon Southgate. As you know, very little is off limits in the best man speech when it comes to talking about the groom. And although you know the stag do is something that doesn't really get mentioned for obvious reasons. Simon was so desperate, in fact, for me not to mention stag do, he's actually taken out a super injunction. But all I can say is it does look very good in a dress. So there we go. So when I was first asked to be best man, actually, I was a little bit confused because he'd actually already have a best man, and for whatever reason decided to change his mind. So when you think about it, this means I'm actually Simon's second best man. Something I'm not bitter about at all. You know, obviously it's not a very nice thing to put one of your best mates through, so I thought I'd get my own back and put together a second-rate speech. Scruffily scribbled down a bit of toilet paper prior to the thing, but obviously then I got over myself and decided to go for the speech Simon deserves, one that highlights all of Simon's best points. Then I was good at farting and not quite as fat as he used to be. A very compelling speech. So instead, I've opted to spend the next 3 to 4 hours talking about the Simon I know and love, and obviously tell you about the guy that Charlotte has fallen in love with. Now, if I had to describe Simon, how would I do it? Well, I think I'd compare him to an onion, because he smells, he makes people cry, but most importantly, he has many layers, and it's these layers I'm going to tell you about today. Now, the first layer is that of a friend. Now, I know Simon has touched upon parts of this, but never mind. Now, the first layer is that of a friend, and for me, you know, he's a great friend, and obviously there's a lot of you guys out there, so obviously he's a very popular guy. Now, he first joined our school in sixth form due to the fact it was a specialist sports college. Simon wanted to develop his sporting prowess. But this always baffled me because as long as I've known Simon, he's had about as much sporting ability as a flannel. So there we go. I don't really know why he made that decision. But anyway, I got to know Si as well purely just for being close to each other alphabetically in a register. So we're then in the same form together. So never mind, that was alright, I suppose. But when I first saw Simon, he did impress me. I was instantly drawn to him. Immediately, although it wasn't until I realised how soft his hair was that we really kicked off. I don't know if you know, but I think Simon has possibly the softest hair in the world, and I urge you to give a little feel today. A bit weird, I know. I think it's probably the closest thing possible to a stroking a unicorn. Yes. It's that soft. But anyway. Held down. So you know, Simon has been a great friend over the years, and even briefly stayed at mine for a bit. A few summers ago, and it was a great time, even if he did push my mum to breaking point at 4 AM one time. Nothing happened, we was going really late. Anyway, we've done loads together, as you can imagine. Simon's mentioned a few. I'm not going to bore you with the details. However, I'm sure this will continue long to the future, and it really is an honour to be your best man today, Simon. Right. Second layer, whole page for this one. That is, his second layer is that of a gin drinker. Now, Simon's second layer is a gin drinker, and Simon's very vocal about this, which is surprising considering his complete inability to handle gin. And there are two occasions that spring to mind when gin has got the better of him. I'm going to share those with you today. The first occasion was at my parents' house when Simon had just returned home after 10 weeks of basic training. After not touching alcohol at all for this period of time, he decided to take on a bottle of gin. Fast forward 2 hours and he was locked inside a bathroom. 45 minutes passed and there was still no sign of him. Concerned, I forced my way in to check if he was okay. Upon entry, I found him bent over with his trousers around his ankles, with various deposits left in the toilet floor, in the sink, and up the wall. And it just looked like there'd been an exorcism, basically. The second occasion, 3 years later, was strikingly similar. It was a random night in Norwich, and once again, he took on a bottle of gin and lost. The night started like any other. We hit a few bars, but then several hours in, Simon had gone missing. After about an hour, no one really knew where he was, but thankfully George and Chris discovered a Simon-shaped lump under a blanket on the curb, next to the side of the Norwich SOS bus. And you know, I think everyone knows what an SOS bus is, but it's for people that can't handle their drink. Simon was obviously fairly responsive at this point, but somehow George and Chris managed to get him into a taxi and back to his residence, but not before he'd emptied the entire contents of his stomach over himself and the streets of Norwich. Once they got back, Simon, just like the time before, headed straight to the toilet, and Simon and George and Chris actually left him to it. 45 minutes later, he still hadn't surfaced like the time before, so once again, Chris had to force his way in to check he was okay. This time, Chris discovered Simon head in hand asleep on the toilet, covered in sick and bits of food. So Chris thought the only thing I could do is really try to get him to bed. He peels him off the toilet and starts to drag him upstairs. However, during this struggle, Simon's jeans fall off, leaving him pretty much as naked as the day he was born, only really wearing the inside of his stomach. Chris gets him into bed, and as a result of this, he has to spend the night in the conservatory. The reason I mention this story is because Chris's mum, who was a nurse, and his dad, a police officer, said you were the drunkest person they'd ever seen, which I think is quite an accomplishment for a 22-year-old man. Now, Simon's third layer is that of soldier. Now, the third layer, Simon tells me very little about his time in the army. However, I do know he spent 7 years in the army and has 4 tours in Afghanistan. And David Beckham even got the opportunity to meet Simon back in 2010, while he was in Camp Bastion. Now, the army's turned Simon from a scruffy teenager to the man he is today. And I have so much respect for all the good things he's done and all the hard work he does. Now, there's no pun here. I generally obviously do respect what you do. So, third layer is that of a stylish gent. Now, I can't talk about Simon and not mention his impeccable fashion sense, and this really is the layer I wish I'd organised some sort of slideshow for. Simon's responsible for some of the most horrendous and bizarre items of clothing I've ever seen. So I don't know how he's managed to buy such a nice watch, but never mind. But that makes sense. That makes sense. It'd like be flashing with lasers and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
The most famous thing Simon's ever sported was his haircut back in school, which consisted of a crucifix shaved into one side of his head and a butterfly on the other, separated by a highlighted mohawk. A haircut so bad it got sent home from work, for the unfortunate luck of being done the day before the Pope died. Therefore, the crucifix seemed like some sort of anti-Catholic statement, which unfortunately was just a poorly timed crime against haircuts. His style choices also spill over into his tattoos. The main example being our annual St Patrick's Day bar crawl, where he managed to get a pint of Guinness tattooed on his leg. It's not that Simon's badly dressed. It's just he manages to put just every so often he pulls out a garment that only Stevie Wonder would really have the courage to wear, and I guess that does him some sort of respect. The fifth layer, and now that is animal lover. Simon has always been fond of animals, and I know he's long had association with ginger cats. However, Charlotte has really brought out the animal lover in Simon, which is a newfound love for pugs and horses. Now, they say dogs slowly start to look like their owners, but in this case it seems to be the other way round. As every time I see Simon, he seems to look more and more like a pug each day. A very handsome pug, of course. And I also have it under good authority as a certain resemblance to a horse as well. But I don't mean he's got hooves as well. I'm actually disappointed the dogs weren't featured more heavily in the wedding, although I haven't seen the DJ yet, so we will see. the next page. Right, the next page is obviously, well, sorry, the next layer is his final layer, and some might say the best layer to last, and that is Charlotte. It's obviously 50% of the reason we're here today. I was going to say a little bit about how they met, but obviously that's been covered fantastic by Graham, so I'm not going to bore you again with all that. But you know, oh, hang on, what was I? Sorry. Basically, obviously, it's last layer is Charlotte. Now, in Simon's words, they're not just good together, but fantastic together, and I do believe they have many happy years of marriage ahead of them. I've known Simon for a long time. I can see how happy Charlotte makes him. I guess as I wind up this speech, I should offer some sort of advice to Simon for the future. Not that I know anything about marriage, having never been married before, like Simon. However, I feel it's my duty to offer something. I've tried to avoid cliches and things. However, this advice is just so valuable. There's only one rule when it comes to marriage, and that's from now on, Charlotte makes the rules. So as I come to the end of the so-called best man speech, once again I'd like to thank the couple for letting me be involved in their special day, and hope everything has exceeded their expectations. Ladies and gentlemen, it now gives me immense pleasure to invite you all to stand and to raise your glasses to toast Simon and Charlotte, Mr. and Mrs. Southgate. Here's to a lifetime of happiness and love for you both. To the bride and groom.